Synth Network.
Oh, there you go. He's done it wrong again. Straight off the bat, he hasn't got rid of the picture. There we go. Technical problems already, and not as much as we had last week. Welcome, everyone. This is Pro Synth Network live show, episode 55. And we are, as always, joined by our co-hosts Ben and Chris. But this week we are delighted to welcome, and I'm not sure whether to call him Moot or Matt, but either way, welcome, sir, to our show. Great to see you.
Oh, it's good to see you, all three of you guys. It's great to be here.
What do you prefer, Matt or Moot?
My friends call me Matt, but you know, it's
okay. Are we your friends?
Yeah, of course.
There we go. So we'll call you Matt. So yeah, welcome. It's been great. I mean, I've wanted to get you on here for ages because I am a big fan, and we'll talk later about what you do and everything. But you've got the prerequisites for coming on the show because you have a wonderful backdrop behind you there, which is not a fake one. I'm sure there's lots of incredible gear there. I'm sure we'll ask you about that later. Yeah. So yeah, welcome to the show, and great to have you here. Chris, Ben, welcome, guys. How are you? How are you both?
Very good. Tired, but yeah, doing all right. Yeah.
The week's over now. Well, it is for us. These two have got a few more hours to go.
Yeah.
How about you, Chris? How's it over in California?
Yeah, things are
keeping
going
busy.
well.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Excellent. Well, let's crack on with the show. First of all, let's say hi to everyone that is in the chat room. So I'll mention some names: Atoz, Wagyu, Sasquatch, Corrosive Abuser, Simon66, Alt V7, Virtual VS. Is that Native VS or is that a different one? Because I saw Native VS in there earlier. Has he gone virtual?
I think it's a software version. Yeah,
it's a software version of Robert. Keith in Watford, Wilders Music, Martin Taylor, Asio Head, Spazoid Studio. That's James, isn't it? Yeah, JP Page 2, and loads of other people in there. I shan't go through you all, but you're all incredibly welcome. And so just getting some error messages here about the Facebook stream, but I'm not too concerned about that. Oh, there you go, it's gone. Right, so let's get the formalities out of the way. Of course, if you want to follow us on social media, then you can. We have our Twitter account, we have our Instagram account, our Facebook account, and of course, if most of you are watching on YouTube anyway, so you know where to find us there. And if you ever want to get in touch with us during the week in private, maybe not on the Facebook page, then you can always email us, info@prosynthnetwork.com. Of course, we are bringing you this show completely voluntarily. We rely on your generosity to keep us on air, and if you would love to donate to us, then here is the link below. It's in the description underneath the video as well. Cutly/PSN-donate. All your donations go to keeping us running the show and nothing else. So welcome to everyone. And we're going to have a great couple of hours. We've got loads of interesting news topics, and of course we have a super interesting guest to talk to, so we will get right to it in that regard. First of all, let's bring up our first news topic of the week, and that is it is this new instrument from our friends across the channel in France, the UVI Super 7. Which is their version of the Roland Super Quartet MKS7. Now, I am not very familiar with this particular instrument. I believe that it was kind of like an all-in-one box. You had a rhythm, a bass, a chord, and a melody part, and then you could pick and choose, and it was multi-timbral, and it was it was an interesting piece of kit. And UVI have done their usual thing by putting it into their very easy to use and familiar interface, as you can see just there on the screen. Lots of functions to twiddle with, and of course it has its own built-in arpeggiators and all that kind of fun stuff. Shall we have a listen to the demo? Let's see what we've got here. If I remember rightly, it starts quite... Oh no, it doesn't. There you go. So it's kind of suitably synth-wavy, I guess, with all the graphics and the colours and the sounds, but it sounds pretty good. And it's currently on offer, so it's normally €79, which is pretty cheap anyway. But it's now $49, their introductory offer. It doesn't say how long it's for. But anyone got any thoughts on this? Let's go to our guest first of all. Matt, any thoughts on this? Does this tickle your fancy in any way?
Well, first of all, yeah, like you said, like I haven't had a ton of experience with the MKS7. Like, I think it's the only one of the MKS range I've never really spent time with. But from what I understand, it's kind of like a Juno 106 type thing and a 707 type thing in a box.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how close it is to the original circuitry or whatever, but I guess it's kind of like, you know, this is like an early multi-timbral MIDI device, right?
Yeah.
I think I don't know, have we reached peak synthwave yet? I mean, I say that as, like, I just put out a record, like, it's like totally synthwave. But,
no, I do agree with you. I think, you know, maybe we have reached kind of saturation point, and maybe we're now coming down the other side in terms of synthwave. I'd
say this, 6 years ago, this would have been a lot more exciting to me.
Yeah, definitely.
My hot take.
Yeah,
but it sounds good. I mean, I'm sure it's great.
Yeah.
And UVI stuff is all very solid.
It is, yeah, it is very much. Ben, you know, you've got a bunch of Roland stuff there. Does this float your boat?
Yeah, I don't know. I had mixed feelings about it at first. I thought, oh, this is interesting, because I've always wanted one of those super quartet things. I thought, you know, it's the kind of thing that, like, I'd probably end up owning, and I thought, oh right, they've made one of them. That'd be great. And then, like, when I was watching the demos and stuff, I thought it's a little bit band in a box kind of thing, you know. And I can imagine it sounding very samey after a while.
Yeah.
But listening to some of the demos, it sounded quite good. I'm not really sure how you'd use it. Would you use it as a songwriting tool? And then I don't think you'd attempt to do a finished thing on that on its own. I think, like, it might be like an ideas thing. You have it on your laptop and use that, a limitation for yourself imposed on, you know, self-imposed limitation.
Yeah. So
you can't go outside of this, you know, to see where your creativity goes from that. But I think it is interesting. Yeah, that after this indecisiveness I had at first, like whether I liked it or not, I think I ended up thinking, yeah, it's for my only concern about it is when they were like selecting the starting point, the starting sample for each element. It didn't seem as though there was that many options. It weren't like there were, you know, it's not like Omnisphere. There weren't thousands of them. There seemed like to be at most a couple of dozen for each you know, section of sound. But, you know, there was maybe like, I don't know, 12 different types of drum kits, 12 different bass samples, but then again, if you're gonna, if you are that way inclined and do impose these limitations on yourself, then that might be another good thing. You know, you're just limited to those.
Because they did something very similar, didn't they, with the what was it called? Something 24. I can't remember what it was called now. Program 24.
Yeah.
Oh, the Sultan thing.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is kind of like that like you say, band in a box thing.
That's really a cool machine.
Yeah. And I think having the machine's quite a nice thing, but having it as a plug-in with all of the samples in a world where you can have anything else,
Right.
It's, I don't know, maybe some people will use it as a kind of a starting point. Let's knock up something and then maybe just record that, shove it into as an audio track and play along.
The
Cryss.
quality, as always, though, UVI,
Oh, yeah.
it's it is solid and it does sound great, but it's how much use you get out of it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sorry, Cryss.
What do you think, Cryss?
Yeah, really quick before I comment, we've had a couple comments asking if we can get Matt's volume up a little bit. So of course he's the person that we want to be able to hear the most.
Okay.
So hopefully, okay.
No worries.
Yeah,
Hopefully this will be better. Move closer to the microphone.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, I love the Juno sound. In fact, my first synthesizer was a Juno 106, not the one that I have now, but in fact, I let me go the other way here. I pulled it out and set it up today. Could play it a little bit later, hopefully. Yeah, so I mean, I think even myself, Native Yes in the chat was talking about how many companies are making Juno software, and I'm always good for one more if it's done better than the previous ones. And so probably more on that later, but if there's ever a decision to be made between a sampled version and algorithmic version, I'm always going to take the algorithmic one. That said, of the sampled Junos that are out there, or that kind of styled sound, UVI seems to me have a little bit of the best vibe to their sampled library. So, I think again, people have different needs. So for me, I would rather conserve and bounce tracks and stuff. We'll do whatever I need to do to have the algorithmic sound. But if somebody's got a big hard drive and maybe their CPU is really old, something like that's going to help them out a lot.
Yeah,
That's true.
definitely. I mean, it's as people have been saying in the chat room, it's a 106 that provides all the synth stuff, and then it's a 707 for the drum machine. But apparently, according to UVI, let's just bring up that screen again. They have added other stuff as well. So as well as the 707, you've got 505, 606, 626, 808, and 909 samples in there as well. So they've done that. They've done the cool thing, and they've replicated something and then given it a little something extra to sweeten the deal. So yeah, it's interesting, and I think at 49 euros, $49, it really isn't going to break the bank. And of course, it features a huge amount. I mean, they do all of their stuff in lossless sampling, so it's nearly 10 gig of WAV equivalent, but it only takes up about 4.5 on your machine. 262 presets, over 26,500 samples, all recorded at 88.2 and then put down to 44.1. You can run it and license it off of 3 different devices at any time, and it works within the free UVI workstation or Falcon if you use that. But yeah, it's an interesting little addition, I think, to their sonic arsenal.
It's a powerful thing, that workstation, isn't it? It's like when you see these things come out and it completely transforms into another device, but it's not like the same features are just replicated in different wrappings. It's like it really is like a new machine sometimes. Some of the releases that come out. But surprisingly powerful, because it's been going quite a while now, that, isn't it?
Yeah. And I know we didn't have this on our things to discuss list, but it just got updated today. So I thought, seeing as we're talking about UVI, they have just updated their shade plugin to version 1.2. And this is actually a really kind of cool thing, because it's this kind of advanced EQ and mix tool with loads of different modulation and filter capabilities and all sorts of filter shapes. And yeah, so that's just been upgraded to 1.2. So if you own that, it's a free upgrade. If not, it's €129 for that. But that just dropped yesterday or this morning.
Yeah, one comment about it, that they're very involved on the forums, like on KVR, and every shade update has brought really great features to it. It's quite a versatile plugin, and you can do all the automation and stuff, and you can do filtered effects, standardized EQ. You can even do some dynamic EQ type stuff with it. But yeah, quite a good plugin.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. I think UVI have kind of broken out of that vintage sample based thing, and they've started to make some really cool little plugins, such as Shade and Thorus and Spark Verb, which is one of my favorite kind of go-to reverbs. Yeah, they're doing some really, really cool stuff. But there you go. That is UVI Super 7. It is €79 full price, 49 at the moment introductory, and is out now from uvi.com. Seeing as we are talking about the 106, and it is kind of the synth du jour at the moment. Everybody seems to be doing a 106, whether it's Roland doing it in their software cloud. And we're going to talk about something else, and there's ones that they've got 106s all over the place. Apart from here, I haven't. Have you got one, Ben? You got a Juno?
I've had 3.
You've had 3.
I've not got any at the minute. Yeah.
No, it's one that I never owned is the Juno of any of the variants. But there are 2 things that we're going to discuss that are 106 related. The first one, let's get this one out of the way, because this is the one that comes from the actual people that made the Juno 106. So Roland Cloud users can now download the original 128 patches that came off of the tape banks that you used to be able to upload into the machine. And they sound pretty damn good, I have to say. Getting all synth wavy again. So yeah, if you own the Roland Cloud and you have the 106, I'm sure, well, if you have the Cloud, you must do, then there's a whole bunch of brand new sounds for you to play with, or brand new old sounds. And I must admit, having never owned one of these, it's nice to get these original sounds, and you can hear some, there's some obvious classics in there that are all over some certain songs of the age. So that's available now for free, of course, if you are, well, I'd say for free, if you're a Roland Cloud subscriber, you can download those in. Interesting, because somebody shared with me the other day all of the DX9 banks taken off the audio cassette. So they've taken the cassette, they've recorded it, converted it into FLAC files, and so now you could just put them on your mobile device or whatever, plug the tape lead into the back of the synth, and then upload from the audio files from whether it's an iPhone or your computer, which I thought was rather cool. But there's a lot of tapes. I've got a Poly 6 tape that I haven't got a Poly 6, but I've got the tape with all the patches on. So I
somebody
need to get
should
those.
put them all on YouTube, shouldn't they?
Yeah.
You just
that'd be cool.
YouTube.
Yeah. With a warning, obviously, because it's going to sound awful. It's the sound
Please
of.
do not play this to the speaker. Kind of like the little warning they'd have on the tapes, right?
Yeah. That's it. That's nostalgia, isn't it? The sound of computer data on tape. Oh, that's what a sound. So I guess you got some of you guys have got Junos. Have you had a chance to play with these? Are they authentic? Is it worth getting?
I have.
Yeah.
I've downloaded them and played with them, and they sound really authentic, to the point where I was actually time traveling in my head back to when I first encountered a Juno 106 for the first time. And I remember it was another band that we used to hang around with, and their keyboard player got one. And we had the manual out, it's got the list of sounds, because it's only got a 2-digit display on it. And we're going through, because at the time, I think we were more into like realistic sounding things, even though nothing could actually do that at that point.
Yeah.
Nothing could sound like a DX7 at that time, And we're going through the sounds, and it's like the next one's it's nylon guitar. I was like, all right, let's give that a whirl, like.
And it sounded nothing like.
It sounded like Mario, Like, how's that a nylon guitar, like? And then try the recorder that, you know, that's got to be bang on, that like recorder, nothing like it. And then I was going through these sounds like what I've downloaded, the new ones, and I was back there.
Yeah.
And the beauty of it is now is that you can actually see the name that they originally give it on the little display there. And just some of them are hilarious, you know.
Yeah.
Like, this is supposed to be a gong. What's going on here? It's like...
But that was the beauty of it, wasn't it? When you didn't have the patch names on the synth and you were just flicking through the numbers and you didn't know what they were trying to be, they actually sounded quite good. As soon as you started to equate, that's a recorder. You know, it sounds nothing like a recorder to me. They all of a sudden lost their magic. But
they're actually good sounds, but not like what they're supposed to be.
Not like what they're supposed to be. There you go.
Yeah.
Like,
one thing,
it's like the TB303 all over again, isn't it?
Yeah.
One of the nice things about it is that, this is kind of the thing that I thought they should have done from the beginning with the 106 plug out on the System 8 or the Roland Cloud. Like, why didn't they provide them? Not to say that they're all super useful, but there's some classics in there. And there's one patch in particular that I liked a lot. So I condensed, mine came with all the original banks in it. So I just condensed it down to some banks I wanted to keep just my favorite patches, and then I reprogrammed the rest. As Bert was saying, it's one of the easiest synthesizers to program, so you just end up playing with sounds and coming up with stuff really quickly. But one of those patches that I really enjoyed was called Dark Synth Piano, and it's probably something that nobody really cares for at all. It's this kind of dark, chorusy piano sound, but I love it, and you put it into some big reverb, and it sounds really nice, but nobody's ever had that patch. I had ended up building it myself in Roland Cloud, or I think on my System 8. And so it's kind of cool to see people like putting out the full, like Roland Cloud or Softube putting out all the originals, so that if there's one that, especially in there that you loved or, from back in the day, that you can play it again and see what it sounds like again. Kind of like what Ben was talking about, to have that nostalgia of it. And there's times, I like to do my unique sounds, but there's times where you want to grab one of the classic sounds that just kind of hits people's ears, a Les Paul and a Marshall, or that certain Juno 106 pad, or stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's move on to the next Juno 106, because this is probably, we can get our teeth into this one a little bit more. But Roland Cloud have obviously put their 106 out. Cherry Audio had the DCO 106, which kind of came out around the same time as the Roland one. And now they've been joined by I think they're Swedish, the Swedish guys at Softube with Model 84. And this is kind of a full-blown, as they say, resurrection of a polyphonic icon. But for your money, and it isn't particularly cheap. It's normally $159. It's down to $99 for the introductory offer. But this is like a full-on recreation. But not only is it just like a soft synth, as you see here, but it also comes with all of the elements broken down into modules that you can use in the Softube modular system, as well as there's presets here from Matt Johnson. I saw Alex Ball did a really great demo video of it as well. And you've got the effects as well, so that chorus comes as a separate effect. So they've kind of taken it, they've done their thing with it, and then they've broken it down into pieces so you can use it in many more creative ways, which I think is a really cool idea. I wasn't sure, I've got the Roland Cloud, so I've obviously got the 106 in there, and I thought, well, do I need another one? Because I didn't pick up the Cherry Audio one because of the fact that I've just got the Roland one. But this is kind of swaying me. So I'm going to go to Matt, because you've got the real deal here. Would something like this, would this attract you?
This one is kind of attractive because I think the Softube stuff has a certain, I don't know, there's something attractive about it. It seems to have a little bit more, they seem to go for a little more characterful things. And I feel like this is going to have a lot of character to it. But for me, it's like, the only reason I would want it probably is for the things that it does that I can't already do.
Yeah.
And for the convenience too, because I have a mini Moog here, but half the time on a track I'll just use Monarch or something because
Yeah.
it's convenient.
Yes.
You know,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
true confessions.
Yeah, no.
No. It's
I think we'd all
becoming
agree.
more and more common, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
they're getting closer and closer all the time. So
Yeah.
you,
Sure.
you
It's a
do just
viable
think,
alternative. You know.
yeah, you just think it's going to be easier to put that on than wire that up, and your patches save as well.
Yeah.
That's
I mean, I do it all the
thing.
time with the DXs. I'll use DexEd.
Yeah,
And just
all those sounds.
get the idea out, and I've got all the sounds out. Get the idea, and then I think, then I'll maybe just swap it out and use the hard. Same with the Fairlight, which is it's so much easier to use the plug-in than it is to fire up the noisy bastard in the corner and have that going. So get it doing that way. So totally
and
get
you
it.
can hear the music that you make with the plug.
Exactly,
as well.
and you're not. Oh, you can switch the house heating off because it warms up the building. Quite nicely.
Right,
Chris, now you're a 106 owner there. Would you get this? Does this appeal? Do the extra features appeal?
Yeah, so this is, when you have the hardware, you think, well, what would I want the software for? And I completely agree with Matt. Like, I'm just finding myself, if there's a good sounding software in my workflow, it's so much easier just to, pull it up on a track and do that. And then if I do something special with it, it's saved in there. I can go and recall that or save it as a preset. And don't have to pull it out of the closet, don't have to hook up the cables or anything like that. It's just a lot easier. So, of course, then the thing is like, well, how good do these sound? And right now, to me, the top of the Juno plugins have been the Roland Cloud ones. And I've enjoyed those. And so when I first saw this, I was kind of like, well, it was a little bit, do we really need this? And I had demoed the Model 72, their Mini Moog one. I didn't really care for it. So I wasn't really expecting a whole lot out of this one either. But I listened to some sound clips and I'm like, wow, this sounds really good. And watched through the Starsky Carr video where he compares it to his 106. And my 106s, I've done the chip stuff, and also I've calibrated it myself, and it's in really good condition, and it's pretty tight sounding for a 106. It's not too I think Starsky's was a little more variant than mine. Mm-hmm. So this Model 84 sounds really close to my hardware Juno. Mm-hmm. And it wouldn't have been something that was like I got to go out and get this, but I actually am I still have the demo right now, but I am going to buy it, and there is a code you can use to get another $20 off. I think it's like $79. I gotta find out what it is, but if somebody messages me, or I'll put it in the Synth Network group if somebody needs it. But it's fantastic sounding. The presets are good. They put the original presets in there also, in addition to and I'm pretty tough on companies for maybe not giving sound designers a lot of time to make presets, because they usually sound a little bit rushed and like, oh, this is not that interesting, or they're very gimmicky. But I thought this came with really great presets. And my one complaint about it, though, that I'm really bummed about this, is that with the Roland Cloud 106, they give you an extra envelope. And same thing for the Juno 60 and the JX3P. And those really open them up to a lot more sound, just having that one more envelope. And really wish they had done that for this, because they have shown that, they've got the simple 106 setup, but then there's another thing that slides in, and you've got access to some more parameters that are not on the original. So they could have added that in there, and it would have been more useful than anything they put in that little sidebar thing. So kind of bummed about that. Now, one last word. Those individual modules are not individual plugins.
That's right, yeah.
Like the chorus, they only go into Softube Modular.
Yeah.
So it is kind of a way to get a little more versatility out of it.
Yeah.
So and then you can mix, something that's really fun to do is start mixing oscillators and filters from different synthesizers. So maybe you want Moog oscillators with a Roland filter and extra envelopes. But again, with the modular stuff, it's, unless you really build it out, which would be CPU intensive, you're pretty much stuck with, one or two voices for it. So
you'll have to pardon my ignorance here, because I'm just flicking through the website. The Softube modular system, is that is that a paid for thing or is that a free?
Yes.
So you have to own that
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so, but they got cool modules for it. I mean, they've got some Forum S stuff and Dopefer, and they're all licensed. To be honest, though, like it's not as great to use as the VCV rack, which is free.
Okay.
I mean, you can buy some of some modules for it, but there's like hundreds and hundreds of free modules for it, including like mutable instrument stuff in there.
Right.
So it's the Softube. I don't go to as much for it, but they I think perhaps if they streamlined the workflow on it, there's a lot of extra button presses and to move stuff around, and where VCV Rack doesn't have that, it's a little more intuitive.
Good to know.
Yeah, definitely. Well, at the end of the day, as we say with every time we get 2 or 3 versions of the same thing brought out by different manufacturers, the consumer is the winner at the end of the day, because if you're on a budget, DCO 106 from Cherry Audio does a really good job, and it's like 29, or has it gone up to 49? I don't know, but even so, it's still low end. If you fancy the whole Roland Cloud subscription thing, you get the 106, and of course you get everything else that comes in there as well. Or you're looking for something that's really kind of deep and configurable, and you can use in a modular sense as well, providing you have the modular package. Then there's something for those.
And Matt, which Juno did you have?
It's the 6.
6, yeah. So and also having both 6 and 60 and 106 and software forms by different manufacturers is fantastic, because they do sound a little bit different in that beautiful graininess of the 6 and 60, or the kind of I describe it as like a kind of a hazy sound of the 106 and the extra bottom end. Really great options right now.
Yeah, and as Mac points out in the chat, that Cherry Audio have their modular thing with the 106 modules that go into that, as well as the modules from their recent other synths, like the Polymoog stuff. So yeah, well pointed out there, Mac. Thank you. Choice always good, and there's plenty of it. So 2 pieces of 106 news there. One from Roland Cloud, and of course one from Softube. So softube.com is where you go to find out more about that. And I said it's currently on offer at €99. I guess that's similar in dollars now, I guess. So that works. And then we actually need to do we need to have a special caption for the show for Cryss's discount codes, because he always seems to find them. And so we need to have Cryss's discounts code section. And this week, here's a discount code for something. So now we said that, he won't get any for weeks. But lots of good stuff. I mean, Softube, we've got an offer on 67% off a whole bunch of stuff there this weekend only, off their harmonics and fixed flanger. Everyone's doing a deal. Right, let's do one more little piece of news, and then we're going to grill our guest and get into details and get into the weeds with Matt. So let's talk about this one from our French neighbours again. This is another French company, and they are knocking out some really, really cool stuff. And this one is often quoted as being probably their best software synthesizer out of everything that they do. This is the news that Arturia have released Pigments version 3, and it really is. I've not seen many bad words said about this, and I must say I really do like playing around with this. It's very visual, and if you are a visual person, this is definitely up there. I'm not going to play the demo because it kind of sounds much like we know what it sounds like, but it's got loads of new stuff. So you've got harmonic oscillators, you've got third utility engines to add depth and color, 64 new wavetables for metallic aggressive timbres, 4 new effects including pitch shift delay and a flanger. They've got the Jupiter 8 or the Jupe 8V's iconic resonant low pass filter. New in-app tutorials, 200 new presets thrown in there. And the great news is that if you are a Pigments owner already, this update is free, completely free. And if you're not, but you own other things, then you get a discounted price. You can. It's normally like $199. You can get it for $99 if you own certain things. So they are, doing lots of good discounts on there. And they've also got this new Spectrum sound pack, which is 500 sounds designed exclusively for Pigments version 3, which you can pick up for like $19. So some good value upgrades and upgrade packages there. So hands up who uses Pigments? Anyone here?
Me.
Everyone. No, right. Okay. Well, let's go to let's go to Ben first. Your thoughts on Pigments 3?
Well, I've downloaded it, but I've not really had
over to Cryss.
that much time with it. So, it's all right from what I can gather. But there's loads of new features, isn't there? There's new like wave tables added to it and new effects. So, yeah, it's brilliant that it doesn't cost. I don't know if it's. I don't know if it's like a full increment update though. It seems as though it should be a 2.5 or something. It's not a huge leap from what we had before.
That's true.
Tell, but great though. I'm not complaining. It's not cost me anything. So yeah,
and maybe that's like indicative of the fact that it does feel like a point release, not a new version.
Yeah,
that's why they're giving it away for free, but they just bumped the number up by one. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a bit strange that. Cause, it's not a massive leap at all.
No. I mean, when I opened it up for the first time, I thought, I can't see what's new. And you have to kind of look, go in there to find all the new stuff. Yeah. It's not obvious, all this new stuff. Cryss.
Yeah, so I got Pigments when it first came out, and I had hardware already, so I got whatever their deal was, and very taken with the look of it. I thought they did a great job with the layout and the colors and everything, and it's very intuitive. But when I first got Pigments 1, I had a bit of regret, because it was cheap enough. I don't know, whatever, $69 or something, but I was kind of like, that was a gas purchase, and I kind of regret it because it's a very sterile sounding synthesizer. And then when 2 came out, they really did a lot of work on it. And now with 3 again, what a fantastic synthesizer it's become. It's just enormously versatile. And if you don't have a lot of money and you want to get the most out of a synthesizer, like that will have multiple types of synthesis available to you, virtual, analog, wavetable, granular, all the new stuff that they just did, the harmonic oscillators, all that kind of stuff. Like this would be it. And I think especially if you're really gassing hard for something like an Iridium and you're not sure how you're gonna drop $2,500, like this would be what I would recommend to people, or even versus something like Omnisphere, which is amazing, but it's $500. This at less than 100, and again, I think it's 49 if you have some of their other stuff already. So, you definitely want to log in and check your price if you don't have it. But great synthesizer, definitely more skewed towards modern sounds.
Yeah.
But they've added some of the vintage filters that they've done in their V collection. So I think the Jupiter filters went into this update along with some of the new oscillator types. So really cool synthesizer. Highly recommend it.
Yeah, no, it's good fun. It's definitely good fun. Matt, you say you don't have this, but are you tempted?
Oh yeah, especially now seeing what all it does. Because I looked at the original one and it didn't really speak to me, and I completely missed version 2. So this is kind of like, oh yeah, Pigments, I forgot, because it actually looks pretty fun. It looks like a really versatile machine, and what you were just saying, Cryss, is kind of piqued my interest in that the whole kind of Iridium thing in a more manageable package.
Yeah, it's definitely a visual synthesizer. But I mean, I'm looking behind you there. I mean, you've got stacks of great hardware. Are you a software synthesis guy?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a lot of soft synths, and I certainly use them. But I tend to stick with mostly hardware lately. I don't know. I go through phases with it. Like everybody.
Because you're going through a good phase right now, aren't you? We're exchanging lots of private messages, aren't we? Because you're kind of really getting into your FM now, aren't you?
Yeah, well, FM was where I started from when I was a little kid.
Right.
Like I've told you. And my first keyboard was a PSS 140
Mm-hmm.
Yamaha when I was 5, and then it was a DX7 too after that.
That's a leap.
Yeah. And so I was like this little 12-year-old running around with the manual to DX7.
Wow.
And so like going to analog from that was like, what? You mean you can just turn a knob? It's like, what? You mean I don't have to like go, So
Awesome.
yeah, so it's a completely different paradigm,
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
I've always had this fondness for those FM sounds, and it seems like about every 6 or 7 years I'll buy a DX7 or a TX7 or something, use it and use it and use it, and then get bored with it and sell it off.
Okay.
And then here I am, with this room full. Yeah, I've kind of gotten a little ridiculous with it, but I just happened upon all these crazy deals, and once you get bitten by the bug, and what I like about the old Yamaha stuff is that it's all kind of an ecosystem. Like you kind of learn their workflow, and then everything kind of works together. And
that's it. Yeah, it's very cool when you get all of their bits together and they just all fit and do stuff. They even fit physically. You can see at the top there. It's a bit dull, but there's a TX7 just there with an RX17 that slots on top.
Oh,
and then I've got the QX5 as well. So I actually used to have a triple stack with that kind of sloping front side. And it all just physically fit together, and obviously technologically fit together as well. It's very cool. We'll come back to your FM and your synth collection in just a moment. But thumbs up, thumbs down for Pigments, everyone. Like this?
Oh yeah, Pigments is a definite thumbs up.
There you go. So you had the recommendation, Arturia.com for the Pigments synthesizer, which is at varying depending on your current Arturia ownership, you'll get a deal. And if you've already got it, then it's a free update, which is got to be good. So we were just talking there with Matt about his love of DX, and before we kind of get into talking with Matt about his background, his history, how he came to get into all of this stuff, which we've had a little bit there, but we'll get some more. I just wanted to play you this because I was listening to your album King Exile today, just before we came on, which I really love, that kind of jazz funk vibe that you got going on. It's so cool. And it's just great because it's just like you noodling away. There's clearly structure there, but it sounds very much like you're just free flowing with a lot of that. And I'm not, it sounds like there's just a lot of freedom going on, but there's structure as well. So it's very cool.
Nice shirt, by the way.
Thank you. I thought I'd wear it for you. But I just wanted to play this because I was flicking through your extensive YouTube channel, because let it be said, that you were kind of there from ground zero with YouTube and synthesizer videos, because your oldest video is 15 years old. It's as old as my son, or my younger son anyway, which is just amazing. There weren't many people, I guess, in 2000 and what does that make it? 2006.
2006,
yeah. That were making synthesizer videos, and you were there from the get go. And it's funny because when I first came across you as an artist, I said to Mark Doty, I said, "Hey, have you ever heard of this guy?" He's like, "Have I heard of him? I'm his biggest fan." And he sent me all these links to your stuff, and it was just amazing.
Funny.
Yeah. But anyway, I found this video, and I wanted to share this with everyone because it speaks to me on a technological and musical level as well. So this is a video of Matt with a DX7 Mark II plugged through it, and I will skip to the end to show you the signal path on this, but it is stunning. So just have a listen to this. This is just absolutely brilliant. that's clearly going to appeal to people like myself and also to people like Cryss, because it's just a great sound. This is the bit that I thought was just amazing. Let's just see if I can skip. Here we go. So, here is the signal path, as described by Matt himself.
Here's what I got going on right now. So my guitar is going into this VT737 preamp here. That's going into the console, which is being recorded in Logic, and that direct guitar signal is then being reamped
Listen to
by
that.
this preamp box, and as you can tell, it is very loud because that is going into this super lead, into this El Capistan, and finally into two of the inputs of this Marshall Major, which is being picked up by an SM57, which is going back into the console and being recorded. So there you go.
And there you go, indeed. That is it's incredible. I loved it, absolutely. And I thought that would appeal to the synthesists and the guitar gearheads in the room tonight. Tell us, did you just do that because you could?
Well, yeah. So I work at the studio here in Fort Myers, Florida, and the studio's been open since '77, and the whole place just still kind of like is 1977, like we, old MCI 24 track and the whole, the whole deal. Yeah. And it's just, and so we've got this big 4x12 Marshall stack, and it's like, why not use it? Like, so I've just got a permanent reamp set up from the control room that I can just run anything into there. So I'm just all the time trying things. And I don't know if anybody knows this, but the DX7 Mark II, one of the things that I like about it is that they really it's one of the most expressive synths ever. Like, I mean, there are, first of all, there's two expression pedal inputs, there's two like sustain pedal type inputs. There's breath controller, there's aftertouch, and but the most important thing is that there are all these different pitch bend modes that you don't find on too many other synths. And that's, you can bend only the low note or only the high note. And so double stops are now possible. So the next video I'm going to put out is this bonkers pedal steel thing that I've come up with.
Cool.
And with all the complex bends and stuff, because you can have aftertouch bends that will bend all the notes in concert with left-hand control bends that only bend one of the notes, and so you can do
very clever,
complicated.
Very clever. Yeah. But I mean, I thought that was just such a cool video. So let's go back to the beginning. So you started. So your first keyboard was this PSS 170.
140.
Yeah. 140. Yeah. And then you progressed. You kind of just like leaped up to a DX7.
Oh, and there was a 470 in there.
Oh, that's okay. All right.
Which I still have.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So, started at a very early age with synthesizers. And how did that kind of grow to where you are today?
Obsession. I don't know. It's just, I think it's some people are just inclined a certain way, and I, from the youngest memory, I was drawn to anything electronic, anything with buttons, anything that I could do to manipulate something, So I got my first turntable when I was 2 or something, and it had these flashing lights on the front of it. I just think that, those things are, you form those things really early on, Yeah. And so by the time I was old enough to know what a synthesizer was and be able to recognize that on on the radio or whatever, it's like, I want one of those. And once I found out what a Moog was, it's like that. So I've got to have this thing called a Moog, and and so that was all I was actually interested in on the DX7, was just trying to make it sound like a mini Moog, really.
Right.
Tough uphill battle.
Yeah. I was saying
later, you find that you can just turn one knob and it does that thing.
Yeah, that's an admirable endeavor.
With that track that we just heard, was there a little inspiration from like Jan Hammer and the Jeff Beck group in there?
Of course, man. That's Jan Hammer's Jan Hammer's the reason I own a mini Moog. Like, Jan Hammer is to me, the best synth soloist. I just love his phrasing and his tones, and just Jan Hammer's the man.
Yeah.
That was where I probably first recognized him, you know, or knew who he was actually listening to Jeff Beck, because it was Jeff Beck. I was like, man, this keyboard player is incredible. Who is this guy?
That was an early big influence for me. That Jan Hammer with the Jeff Beck group live. Somebody gave that to me on a cassette when I was 14. My friend Cryss, yeah, I wore that thing out, man. Just those tones are magic.
Because the way he came up with that guitar sound from a synthesizer, because I have to admit that I didn't know of Jan Hammer until Miami Vice. You know, that was when I first, you know, who is this guy making that's a guitar? No, it's not. He's playing a keyboard. How does he do that? And then you go down this, you know, this rabbit hole, and you find out, you know, I've got books downstairs, old synthesizer books from the mid '80s that talk about, you know, his signal processing that he was using on that. And then I got into High Vishnu Orchestra and you know, that kind of stuff, and it's kind of a backwards step. And you think, this guy's, there's way more to him than just a cool you know, guitar sound and a Fairlight. So, I'm sure the guys have got some questions as well. I've got one more that I want to throw out. You've got just brilliant chops. I mean, I just love watching you play, because it's the one thing I really love is when I watch you play with your duo, the Moots, is you've got your left hand thing going on in an Arp Odyssey, doing the bass line, and then you're doing all this mad stuff with the right hand, and I just can't comprehend how to do stuff like that. Are you trained, professionally trained, classically trained in any way, or were you just self-taught?
Self-taught, and I've done it since I was 3.
Wow.
And I'm 37, so you know, a lot of experience. But I'll tell you about the whole left hand thing. Like that's only in the last like 10 years that I've developed that. And what happened was I was in a group. It was a 5-piece group, and you know, I was playing keyboards and singing. Mm-hmm. And we got a gig in a long-standing gig in a restaurant, and they would only hire 3 of us. That was the deal. And so we thought, well, we could, you know, lose the singer, and I'll do most of the vocals, and then we'll lose the bass player, and I'll play keyboard bass.
Right.
And I was scared to death that first gig. I mean, I was like panicking, thinking I know I'm gonna screw this up. I know I'm gonna it's gonna be a train wreck. The whole thing's going to be, you know, a mess. And it was kind of one of those things where, you know, necessity, you know, you just rise to the occasion. Yeah. And after doing it for 10 years, still with that same group, mm-hmm. and I've gotten, you know, to where I can pretty much do the left-hand bass without really thinking.
Yeah.
Which is good, because there's a lot of other things to be thinking about.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's quite mesmerizing watching you do that, and a green-eyed envy, you know, because I couldn't even get anywhere close to that. So, guys,
it didn't happen overnight, I'll tell you that. Yeah.
No, obviously practice. Yeah, practice. Anybody got questions for Matt?
Well, I mean, just continuing off of that question, like in that last song, sounds like there's bass guitar in it. I know you also play drums. What tell us about other instruments that you play, or in addition to synth?
Okay, well, I play drums, bass, guitar, sax, trumpet. I don't know, mallets, I don't know, whatever else, right? Just kind of like pretty much, you know, if it has strings on it or keys on it, you can hit it with something. I don't play like violin or anything, and that's something I wish I could play.
Okay.
Or flute. I wish I could play flute, but it's like, I think it's an embouchure thing. I have these, like, I don't know, my lips are shaped funny. I just never could make a sound on a flute that I thought was like even worth working with. Mm-hmm. You know, I thought if you can't at least make a decent sound on it, you maybe should pick something else that you're more suited to. And so the keyboard thing, though, that I always wanted to be primarily a drummer. Like, I've always been into synths and everything. But I picked up the bug to play drums when I was like 11, mm-hmm. and got really into it. And I still, for the longest time, considered that my main instrument. And put most of my focus on drums, and used to, you know, be a gigging drummer. And now I only do it on records, because, like, you know, once everybody found out that I have these, you know, ability to play keyboards, it's that that's what they're hiring me for. So
Yeah. There was a question in the chat room. I'm just trying to find it here. Sasquatch was wanting to know about your experience with Behringer, because I guess that's probably one of the places I first kind of stumbled across you, was when that whole thing went down outside of Anaheim, and there's you, and you have to forgive me, I forget the name of the other guy, Mr. Perry. I can't remember the
David Perry. Yeah,
David Perry. That's it. Yeah,
cool guy.
yeah. So you're doing this kind of two-hander with all of these instruments, and how did that all come about? What was the whole deal with that?
Well, I've got That's a big question. I've got to think about this a minute. Okay, so I've got to thank my friend Ken Pierce. That's Flux,
we know Ken.
Flux.
Yeah, we've had him on the show.
He was the one initially made that connection.
Okay.
And this is when the Odyssey was being developed in Manchester, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And so I first got in touch with that team, which are no longer there, but they were all really nice to me, and I told them all about my experience with the Odyssey and this, that, and the other. And right before Christmas 2018, good grief, time has flown. Yeah. They sent me the Odyssey prototype, which is here. And with the white LEDs instead of the Christmas tree.
Oh, yes.
And it's got some other differences, whatever. But that was what they wanted me to do, was beta test and do some content. And I was thrilled because I tried really hard to get Korg to listen to me, and I really. I'll tell you this. This is something that I tell a lot of young people that ask me for advice or whatever. I tell them, I said, look, anything that I've ever done that was of note hasn't been because I was beating their door down going, hire me, look at me. It was simply because I was doing something. I just kept putting my stuff out there. And they came to me. It organically happened. Every time that I've tried really hard to make something happen, it does, falls on deaf ears, seemingly. And so the Korg thing, I was trying to get involved at the launch, of their Odyssey, and nobody paid any attention. So I thought, well, here we go with round 2 with Behringer. So I at least got to do that, and I was doing for about a year there, just beta testing things and putting out videos, and I think people started to associate me with Behringer. They're like, oh, you're that Behringer guy. I'm like, no, I'm a guy who does things with Behringer.
Yeah.
But I was never a Behringer employee.
No, you were never on the payroll, were you?
No. I mean, they sent me synthesizers, and it was a very amicable relationship, and I don't know why we just kind of stopped talking, and there's no hard feelings or anything. I think Behringer's fine. I proudly play my Behringer gear, and I have no beefs whatsoever.
No,
but I'm no longer working with them.
But that whole experience, because you were doing this thing that was because Udi Behringer does his own thing, and he marches to the sound of his own drum, and he decides that he's going to set up a center of excellence, or I forget the name that he gave it, just outside of the Anaheim venue. Well, I say just out. It was about 50 miles away.
In Chatsworth,
yeah. And so he sets this whole thing up, and it's all going to be Behringer, and he announces. You had the Odyssey there. You had the MS 101.
When it was still the 101.
Yeah, exactly. And you had a bunch of other things there. Some were just on display, and some you were playing. Yeah, you had all that
we
stuff.
had quite a few things there.
Because that 909 we're still waiting for it. But it was a really kind of odd thing. But in a way, I think some people thought, hey, he's going out on his own and doing his own thing, and not, following the whole NAMM vibe. And then there was the press were more like, oh, this is such a pain in the ass because, we want to be in Anaheim, but that's where everyone is. But we also want to see what this guy from, the other side of the world is doing, because he's doing some really cool stuff and it's exciting. So how did that whole kind of thing feel? Did you feel like you were kind of on the outside or doing something, crazy or different or interesting?
Yeah, well, my friend, suit and tie guy,
Oh yeah.
Was at NAMM, of course, and his usual doing his usual thing, and so I made the trip to Anaheim to hang out with them and Bubba and all my friends there, and it was only when I was driving back did I realize how far out of the way it was. And that was in LA traffic at 7 a.m. and that's my fault for staying. You know, I crashed on the hotel floor and I was too tired to drive back. And it was like, I'm like, yeah, this is really far. And now I understand why everybody's been complaining, because it's not really just a hop, skip, and a jump like it seems like it would be on a map. It's like when you really get driving, it's kind of, a serious pain. And I think they, maybe hadn't... They did have such a nice facility there, and they had, there's a lot of different brands. It's not just Behringer. Like, I don't think people would have come out only to see Behringer, but there was also Tannoy and Bugera and Clark Technic and TC and a bunch of all of the Music Tribe brands. So I mean, they tried to put on something that was worth going to, but I can see how everybody that was there for NAMM saw it as just kind of like an inconvenience, and I can't blame them.
Yeah, but it was nice, I think, from our perspective, that we kind of had like two NAMMs. We had main NAMM, we had like mini Behringer NAMM, and it was
it was a lot less chaotic.
I mean, it was it did seem like it was good fun. Ben, you got anything for?
Well, our friend Dom, a.k.a. Mr. Wiggly.
Mr. Wiggly?
Who's brought out a rather brilliant Incinerator plugin.
More of which later.
Asked a question directed at Matt.
Oh.
And it's, with your drumming hat on, Matt, what is your favourite drum machine?
Favorite drum machine?
Yeah.
CR78.
Ooh. Edgy.
That's one of my favourites.
That's tied for first with the Oberheim DMX.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. Decent. Yeah.
Because you've been using the Uno drum as well, haven't you, recently?
Love the Uno drum. That whole last album that you were talking about, that's all Uno drum.
Yeah, I sat there listening to that this afternoon thinking, wow, he's making this thing sound really good. I mean, it's not difficult, but it sounds really good.
With the Simmons samples in there.
Yeah. Oh, very cool. So, CR78. Why the CR78?
But you know what I like about it is that it's like, if you want to do that really soft kind of like Hall & Oates thing, you can use the CR78 by itself, or that like early 80s Genesis thing.
Yeah.
Like Duke type of thing.
Yeah.
Or if you combine it with a kit, it's the perfect complement to a kit. Like I think it's more interesting sometimes than like congas or some other type of percussion.
Fade to Grey by Visage is a good example of that, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And of course, Blondie.
Sure.
With that whole intro, and then, but if you listen, it's all the way through the track as well. With Clem
also
on the drums.
the Maestro Rhythm King. That's another favorite.
Yeah.
The MRK2.
Yeah.
But I'm with you on the DMX. The DMX is kind of like, everybody talks about 808s and 9irons, and I'm like DMX and Lindrum. That's kind of gritty sample drums is where I'm at. I definitely like those kind of things.
Well, it's one of the nice things about the Uno drum too, is that you can put different packs of drum machines in there. So you want a CR78, you can stick it in there, or
and somebody somewhere has hacked it, so you can now provide them with some samples, they will create the correct file that you can then upload to your Uno. I mean, it's completely off IK's radar, I guess.
Oh, we got to talk about this.
Yeah,
I was hoping somebody would. Like, this is something Suit and I have talked about a lot. About like, they're just which Suit made an expansion pack.
He did, yeah.
Got those in mind right now.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And I'm surprised that they didn't push on, because they released those sample packs. There's 10 in total, and then there was a few signature ones like Suit and Tie Guys, and there was a couple of others. And I just thought, the next thing is going to be user samples. So, get your WAV files, and maybe there's going to be a size limitation or whatever, and then just drop them into slots and then press this button and it wraps them up into the file, and then you can upload them. But
you would have thought from day one. And we actually talked about that, with Eric from from IK. And
Yeah,
but,
I've
you know-
certainly mentioned it to them, but
well, right, yeah, I think we actually talked about this a while back. Didn't we?
yeah.
Yeah.
But there you go. No, but it's a cracking little unit. I mean, it's
Yeah,
for
it's
all.
great.
I think it came with some stick from certain places, but for me, it's that because it is kind of rough around the edges that it makes it kind of nice. And I think some of the best instruments are rough around the edges.
That's what it kind of it's got it feels like an old piece of kit because of that. It's sort of got like sometimes when I turn it on I have to reboot it again. Like it's just it's got some little quirks, but I mean for the price and for what it does.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see a slightly bigger one come out, stereo outputs and a few other features.
Yeah,
I
maybe
think we will because they just put out the updated Uno synth. That's like the bigger,
Yeah.
So maybe
Yeah.
they'll do that with the drum. I hope they do. That'd be so nice.
Yeah, that would be cool.
They're doing some really good stuff. I know that they when it came with the pandemic, like most synth manufacturers, they've had some hard times to get through, particularly because although they have their own facility in Modena, which is in northern Italy,
Right.
of course Italy was one of the first places to get really hit with it, and so they had to clear out everything. But one of the great things that IK did was that they came up, as well as trying to carry on manufacturing, they came up with a little device, a proximity sensor device, that they're now selling to all industries that tells you when you've been within 6 feet of somebody else who's wearing one of these little devices. So it just helps people stay the right distance apart. So it just sets off a little little alarm when you get too close to somebody else who's wearing one. So they kind of diversified and took their facility and started making something that was going to be useful for the pandemic, and that then allowed them to come back to work in a safe manner and obviously continue producing the Uno Synth Pro, which has been on the cards. I can't say too much, but it's been on the cards for some while, and we're only now hopefully seeing it fairly soon because they're doing they're finishing the presets. I think they might be finished, but anyway,
Wow.
that'll be exciting. So
Yeah, it looks cool.
Uno Drum Pro would be nice, wouldn't it? Maybe with some proper
Yeah.
rubber pads,
Yeah.
and something. Yeah, that would be cool. I like that. So, of your collection that you've got there, it's quite an extensive thing. What are your? I mean, obviously your Minimo's got to be up there, but what are your favourite toys in your little room there?
Well, let's just have a little. Look here.
Give us
So,
Rhodes.
Rhodes Mark One. This is a '79 Rhodes Mark One that I've done a lot of stuff to. Put softer hammers into it, so it sounds.
Okay.
And you can see it's kind of got some dental issues here, and that's just because there are. That's because there's backstops. I've installed backstops, and that's so you can. I mean, do that
Gotcha.
on any. It's hard to do that on a Rhodes,
Okay.
Yeah.
So
That must
that's
be
a
nice
W5 that I'm using for a controller, but I got
Oh,
a
yes, I remember when you got that.
KX that I'm gonna replace it with.
Yeah.
And, okay, so we got Minimo. There's an
MPC.
MPC 2500 that I don't really use anymore because I
Mhm.
can't seem to get it to sync reliably with this rig.
Mm.
Boss Looper, Uno Synth, Uno Drum. Oh, we got a Pro 1, Behringer Pro 1. I really love this thing for
Yeah.
bass. It's
Yeah.
a great bass machine. And
I've
then
got one of
Crave
those
and
as well.
Wasp.
Mhm.
And then what else we got back here? We got the .com STG system. I used to have a
Nice.
double. Anybody who's seen my videos for years, I had the 44 space for a long time, and I sold half of it. And times are tough sometimes, and ended up kind of replacing that with Eurorack. So we got a little Eurorack system there. There's a Hammond M100. Oh, tucked away down here is an Art Pro
Ooh.
DGX.
Look at that.
And that thing needs some TLC, but I got it for crazy cheap. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping to get that thing all restored and everything. Mini log. Love the mini log.
Mm-hmm.
So over here's a Juno 6. And clavinet.
It's that D6.
And this is a Rhodes Mark 5.
Oh, my 5.
Yeah, and the Rhodes Mark V. So these instruments I inherited from my friend Cryss, who was kind of one of my mentors, one of the ones that really got me started in all of this, and he passed last May.
Mm.
And so it's nice to be giving these instruments a second life.
Yeah.
And yeah, I I owe a lot of my expertise to that guy. So and then over here's a bunch of pedals and things.
Oh, look at that little Yamaha. Was that DD? Oh, I can't remember what that is now.
Guess. Give me a guess.
I can't remember now. Oh, because there was a 4-pad one, wasn't there? And there's the 8-pad. I've got
That's the
DD
14. Yeah.
That's the 4. Yeah. 'Cause
Yeah.
I've got the DD10, which has got the plastic.
Oh, yeah.
pads.
That's the same era, though, I think.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
10, 12, and 14, I think, are all like early 90s.
What is it on?
Oh, and that is a Roland SH3.
Ah,
That was my first analog synth.
right.
And
Nice.
yeah, I'm hoping to get that thing kind of in more of a usable configuration soon. It's just like I've got my studio currently is in this tiny bedroom. And like I said, all my FM stuff is in the other room. I've sort of got there's my drum kit tucked away in whatever is left of the room, guitar rig, the whole thing.
Nice.
So, and then of course my console is a Tascam.
Very nice.
DM4800. You know, I've got some interesting things. Here's something that nobody knows about, which now everybody knows about because it's on Pro Synth Network. The MTI ADL 100. It's hard to even find any info on this thing. But basically, it will turn whatever you put into it into a Selena.
Wow.
It's just a Selena ensemble in there.
Ah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
So you know the old 1080, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's basically
looks like a
it.
fun room. Yeah, definitely. There was some questions in the chat room. Did you guys pick any of those up?
Yeah, Roz Gray 801 asks, who is Matt's favorite drummer?
Oh,
And I'll add to that also, like, are there other musicians that outside of key players that are influential to you, bassists or guitarists or anything, horn players, whatever?
sure. I could go on and on about that. I'm sure anybody could. Drummers, it's hard. You know, for years I would have said Billy Cobham. And he's still probably top 5. Bill Bruford, Lenny White, you know, all the prog fusion guys,
Yeah.
man. That's and then as far as newer players, you know, I like this Lewis Cole, Nate Smith. There's, you know, nowadays it's like I'm sure there's somebody who is 10 years old that will play way faster and funkier than I ever will. And it's like every time I turn on YouTube, there's some 8-year-old playing the bass like Jaco Pastorius, and it's like it's really crazy to see, man.
Yeah, it's great to see, but it also makes you think, oh, just give up.
Well, yeah, it's like those, you know, I always say it's like those people that make you both want to practice and quit. It's like,
Yeah. And how about other instruments, you know?
of course,
big
I mean, of
influences?
course, Stanley Clark, you know, Jaco Pastorius,
Yeah.
Larry Graham.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's everybody I think is a product of all of their influences put
Yeah,
together.
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, you know, I could go on and on about drummers and producers and whatever. And some of those influences, I don't think I wear them on my sleeve on purpose, but it's like there are definitely, you know, when you hear my stuff, you can definitely hear some of those influences really heavily in there.
Yeah, for sure. Adamski in the chat room is asking, what's the difference between your Rhodes?
Oh, the two Rhodes?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So the Mark I suitcase Rhodes is and it was a suitcase Rhodes, but I don't have the amp
Sure.
cabinet. I just have a power external, so I can just run it through, you know, the board. And so that it's like one of the late Mark I's, and so it has, you know, all the nice stuff, but it still has the wooden keys. Which
Sure.
that's the thing I like the sound of the Mark II, but I don't really care for the plastic action. And you know, and something that apparently they did in the intervening years. So this is a 79. This Mark V is an 84. And one of the things that they did in between that, like in the Mark II era, I don't know why there was a Mark III and a Mark IV, but that's you have to go online and read about that. It's a really convoluted history. They tried to add a synth to it, and that was a disaster. And it was like, I think that everyone that went out ended up back for service. It's like 100% failure rate. And it's unfortunate because it's a great idea.
Yeah.
You know, to have which, I mean, I think they should have just, like, tried to, well, I mean, there's a bunch of stuff, but, hindsight, right? But anyway, they had reduced the hammer strike action a little bit, like the amount of, travel. They reduced the travel because people were breaking tines, I guess, and so it was a sort of a way to mitigate that was just make it to where you can't hit them as hard.
Yeah.
And so they completely redesigned the entire action for the Mark V. Like and they made the hammer travel even further than the Mark I. So it's like it's actually now it's a consideration that you might break tines because you can really like just whack this thing very hard. Completely different tone though. Like the sound is completely different.
Yeah.
It's definitely that more soft 80s bell-like, hyped tone than the Mark I, which is more fluffy and mid-rangey.
Do you think they were trying to, I don't know whether, because obviously things like the DX7 came along with the classic electric piano sounds on there that people were thinking, I've got a DX7 now, I can get all of those kind of Rhodes style sounds in a unit that I can stick under my arm or take on, as hand luggage or something. Do you think that there was any kind of consideration on that part in terms of how Rhodes were doing things at that time?
I'm so glad that you brought this up because this is one of my favorite things to talk about.
Oh.
So, everybody I think in the general consensus sort of feels more or less that the DX7 killed the Rhodes. Mm-hmm. Because of what you just said, is because it's like, okay, it's Rhodes enough for me in this package that I've also got strings and horns and whatever else, right? And it's in one box, and I can pull up a preset, and why not do that, right? If you're a gigging musician, but like I understand the appeal of it. It's just that I actually sat and made So I've got a buddy who has a DX1, and I go over there sometimes, and I've discovered that you can program other DXs from the DX1 control panel. Yeah. And it's pretty nice. And so I took my DX7 too over there and was messing around, and I've come up with some Rhodes sounds that I think actually sound like a Rhodes instead of the tinkly, Whitney Houston. Yeah. Which I love that sound. I have to admit that I actually like that sound.
Yeah, I love it too. Yeah.
Yeah. But, I understand it's the reason, like, a lot of people hate Phil Collins because, you turn on the radio or television for a whole decade and there he was. Yeah. Every 5 seconds, there he was. Yeah. And so, it's just a matter of overexposure. So on this record that I just put out, I was really trying to juxtapose the Rhodes with the DX7 Rhodes. Because it's sort of an anachronism, It's like not something that anybody would have done because this is considered the next thing, It's like, well, why do we need that old Rhodes for? We've got this. But it doesn't sound like a Rhodes. But the thing is capable of sounding like a Rhodes. Yeah. But I think what it is like it's sort of tonally, it's kind of an evolution from that Dino My Piano thing. Yeah. Yeah. Where everybody was going for, like, if you listen to the early '80s albums from Earth, Wind and Fire, if you listen to the album Raise, that is the most impossibly bright Rhodes, probably Mark I, that I've ever heard. It sounds like the hammers are plastic. It's like so incredibly bright, and I think that's kind of what they were going for with that piano patch, was like that more dino sound.
Yeah, it does have it's got the quality of a Rhodes, but it is unique in its own right, and you can't compare the two. However, there are some Rhodes I'm using quotation fingers here for the because I haven't got the cameras. There we go.
Oh, there we go.
So yeah, there are Rhodes patches that you can get that sound softer and more full on the DX7, but there are
but that's not the famous one, is it?
No, it's
for
not.
whatever reason.
It's
Yeah.
not. Yeah, and then maybe that's why. Maybe it's just a quality that just made it sound that little bit more unique. But I'll just show you.
Yeah.
That's my that's my DD10.
Oh, that is super cool. Look at
Yeah,
that.
which I picked
Can you
up.
you can't hit that with sticks, can you?
No, it's all,
I didn't think so.
They're touch sensitive. That I wasn't sure how it was all going to kind of feel when I got it, but
Wow.
I don't think I've got the batteries in there, so I can't play it. But
looks
yeah,
really fun.
you can give them good old whack, but not with sticks because they're kind of hard plastic. But yeah, it's good fun. It's got MIDI on it, which was cool for the time. And,
You talk about nostalgia, Chris. You were talking earlier about, and Ben, you were talking about nostalgia with sounds, with like old like presets
Yeah.
and what. So like any synth or instrument that has like preset things in it, and they came to you at a formative time. I think that that there is going to carry some nostalgia. And like when I've got this, I just recently got DX7s again after selling them off in like 2015 and I sold all my digital synths and went fully analog with the hardware, and now I'm missing it, so now I'm getting all the digital back. That's the way it goes, right? It comes in
cycles, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, like that DD14 Yamaha, like I can turn that thing on and it's like instantly I'm 12 years old at Christmas, and it's like all those little sounds that it makes. It's
Yeah.
there's something about that I think is maybe why we make the music that we tend to make. Is like it sort of hits strikes a certain chord emotionally, and sometimes I think it's hard to put your finger on, but nostalgia is definitely
There is a strong
factor.
connection, isn't there, between not just a song and an emotion, because you might attach a song to a period in your life or a person in your life, but also the sounds, the individual sounds, because that classic electric piano sound from the DX7, I love it. I absolutely love it, and I don't care that it's probably one of the most overused sounds ever used in popular music, certainly for a very large period of time.
Well, I mean, the same could be argued about the 808. But anyway,
yeah,
continue.
Exactly. Yeah, but the thing is, that sound I associate with emotions and memories of, going to discos in the 1980s, and when those kind of R&B songs came on, or the slow dance songs, and you you get all excited. Yeah, and you get all of that, that kind of, all the testosterone is pumping, and you felt really great because you saw this girl and you'd been, chatting all night, and then you get to dance with her at the end of the evening, and it was generally to a song. Maybe it was a Whitney Houston song, maybe it was a Chicago song, but it had that piano sound, and you just associate that timbre with an emotion. So it really kind of goes down to that kind of deeper level than just the song itself, but the sounds.
It was almost like you were telling my own tale there then for a second, until you got to the slow bit at the end, because my first ever like kind of outing like that, it was after me confirmation, and we all a religious event. We all went to the local pub and like
This is how they do it up north, isn't it?
Snuck in with like fake mustaches and stuff, because we were all like 14 and stuff.
You got your sister's mascara pending you.
Yeah, but like my night, I did end up with a girl. That was good. I got a dance with a girl. First, I think it was the first one I'd ever had. But it was to the Birdie song by the Tweets.
Wow.
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
It's funny how those like chains of sounds and influences work, because sometimes you start with a musical artist and you don't realize what their influences are. They influence you, so like Eric Clapton or Stevie Ray Vaughan, and then you hear the originals, you're like, oh well, that sounds like Albert King or or B.B. King or Muddy Waters or whatever. And I used to get so upset because in high school, like when the Pearl Jam 10 album came out and grunge hit and all that kind of stuff. And I was really deeply into, like Jimi Hendrix and Stevie Ray Vaughan and people like that. And people would come up if they were playing guitar like, oh, you sound just like Mike McCready at Pearl Jam. I'd get so upset. Now, he liked the same stuff that I liked, but I was offended, like, that's Jimi Hendrix, not Mike McCready.
But it's funny, again, you say the association of sounds. You hear a sound on one record that you like, and then you hear it on a piece of music you may not have, liked or have gravitated to, but because you've got that subconscious connection, they used, that guitar tone, or they used that synth patch, and it leads you into that, and you can follow a sonic trail. Something came into my head and it just went away again. But there are many instances of. And it does tend to be those overused sounds like, orchestra stabs or, DX7 electric pianos or the DX7 bass line that you hear that tone and you I'm going to go listen to that because it sounds nice and familiar. I like that sound. And it's a big rabbit hole.
Well, okay, this is a conversation I had. Oh, I didn't mean to cut you off there. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
This is a conversation I remember having with Mark Doty a few years back. Talking about presets and how, like in the 80s when all of a sudden everything's preset based and it's not so, easy to program, it became this arms race, like who can record this preset sound first. It's like forever that Pizza Go-Go sound is going to be Anya forever. Yeah. And like there's so many Prince songs that's like it's D50 presets all day. Yeah. And it's kind of like, when someone was lucky enough to make a hit record out of one of these iconic sounds. Yeah, digital native dance. There's a good example right there. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's like, and so suddenly it's not the sound from that keyboard. It's the sound from that record.
Yeah.
And this is not something that's, maybe to speak to what you were saying, Chris, like, when it's a guitar tone, like that's a little bit more nebulous because it's like, okay, what speakers were in the amp, what tubes were in the amp, where was the mic placed, what kind of preamp was it going through? There's a million factors. But I mean, isn't this something that's been driving the musical instrument industry for decades? Is get the sound of Eric Clapton, buy this particular Strat, get the sound of so and so, buy this pedal. And yeah.
But it's like that Orinoco Flow by Enya, isn't it? That was like, when that first came out, it was like, oh my God, that's got D50 all over it. And now it's like, when you play D50, it's like, wow, this is this is Orinoco Flow.
Well, there was a conversation on our Facebook group this week around the Yamaha CPs, CP70, CP80. And what it said to me was that I remember hearing that sound. I remember hearing Peter Gabriel using it. I remember hearing Simple Minds use it. And there were loads of other songs. And the only thing that would tie these things together, because they were quite, sort of well spread out in terms of style and genre, was that CP70 sound. It wasn't until later on when I started really kind of getting into it that I realised how, ABBA, were big into the CPs, and then there was a band in the early noughties. I don't know, they made it over in America. Keen. Yeah,
I was going to mention them. Yeah.
Yeah. So they were, they kind of brought the CP back in a way about 15 years ago, and it's that it evokes something, and you love that sound, and all of a sudden you realise it's a bit like producers. I didn't understand, maybe 30, 40 years ago that all of these songs that I was saying, oh, I like that, and I like that, and I like that, it all turned out to be produced by Trevor Horn. That was the consistent thing.
Okay.
And so it can be the same for an instrument as well. You like these songs, you don't know why. They're all using a CP70. That's that sound that you can hear. So it's interesting stuff.
It's like the Newman John Fox thing, isn't it? As well.
Yeah, absolutely. And but then there are elements where, like for example, the shakuhachi sound. Everybody kind of instantly goes Peter Gabriel.
Sledgehammer.
Yeah. But then what was it, 10 years later, Enigma did that whole album where like every track used it, and all of a sudden it wasn't the Shakuhachi, it wasn't the Peter Gabriel sound, it was the Enigma sound.
Okay, that's funny.
You know,
So
and
they were able to. That's a big hurdle to jump over.
Yeah, absolutely.
To somehow supersede Peter Gabriel.
It was okay. It was okay until the 10th album. It started getting a bit much.
You made it to 10. I think I only made it past the first one. Yeah, my ex-wife used to absolutely love that album.
Yeah.
I think I do enjoy, though, like when musical artists, on purpose, I mean, certainly our influences just flow out of us, but I've enjoyed some of those moments where artists have gone, we love this other band or these other bands from, when we were growing up, when we were learning our musicians, and we're going to make a completely obvious nod to them, and it's going to be unashamed. This is a band that we like, and one of the bands that does it quite a bit now would be Muse and the United States of Eurasia. If you check that out, man, it's so Queen. They hit so much Queen in there, and it's just gorgeous. And Queen is hard to do because most people just sound terrible doing it, but they did it really well. Loved it. And then they did another one that was very Depeche Mode sounding, and I've enjoyed that when it's done tastefully. And it's really like, this is what we love. We would love you to enjoy it too.
Yeah,
a little bit more than influence, though, isn't it? It's like,
you're right.
Ultimately influenced by, but it's so similar like that.
It's almost a pastiche. Yeah, it's like
But then sometimes there are sounds and even styles, I guess, of playing that are so intrinsically rooted in one individual or one band. The Brian May guitar sound. If anybody else tries to do a Brian May guitar sound, you're just going to go, you're trying to rip off one of the greatest rock guitarists of all time. Go away.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is like, if you do it as an homage to them, like, so that's what Matt Bellamy did. With both, and he's doing Freddie and maybe more in the songwriting part of it, but the guitar parts too. Like, he does some little descending trills that are very Brian May. But then again, it's not like I'm trying to steal what Brian May is doing. Yeah. It's an homage, and that's where I've tried to take it in my own music, because there's some like David Gilmour. I love Gilmour, and try to do some of those, like As You Head was, and I were just talking about it in the chat. But yeah, I mean, his bends and stuff are so iconic, but they're so ingrained in my head. But I just don't care anymore. Like, if it sounds like him, I'm just gonna be like, that's because I love this musician.
Yeah. I feel that way about like Chick Corea and stuff, and Herbie Hancock. But it's like, okay. Yeah, I'm aware of the fact that this tone that I'm playing and the way I'm playing it is very reminiscent of this player. Yeah. But I don't care because I like that.
Yeah.
And here's some more of that. Yeah. But
I did a piece some years ago where I found a bass sound. It was a sampled bass sound, but it was very like Cure. I can't remember the name of the bassist in the Cure. But it sounded very Cure-esque, and it instantly appealed to me because I like Cure. And the style of the song ended up kind of, it almost got me thinking, have I just copied a Cure song? And I had to go and listen through just to think. And in the end, I ditched that, and I went, but I loved this bass sound, so I ended up using it in more of a kind of a dance-orientated track rather than a kind of a goth rock pop type thing. And whenever I hear it, I can't get over that association with the Cure, which is, I don't know if it's good or bad, but I guess where I'm going with this is that it was like that. It was an homage. This was my Cure song, but I didn't want to sound like the Cure. I just wanted to have a patch that sounded a bit like them. And actually, Mickey D Island in the chat room, he did a remix of it for me, which you can find on my YouTube channel. It's kind of an interesting little track. Anyway,
what about when you just sound like somebody else by accident and you can't quite shake it, because you've listened to them all your life. It's kind of ingrained into your.
We must have
style,
all made a piece, haven't we? That you end up thinking, oh, actually, no, I've just covered that.
Yeah.
Because they say the influence is so strong.
Yeah, everything I do sounds like Mick McNeil. I can't get away from it. So
That's not a bad thing. That's not a bad
Well, if you're going to sound like somebody, he's a good person to sound like.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Shall we go and do a few more news topics? We've got about sort of half an hour left. We've got 2 or 3 things that I would like to kind of discuss. They are kind of
Let's do it.
important. So first of all, I just want to talk about this because I would like to take some credit for this, although John Bickle will probably tell me otherwise. But Modal Electronics have just reissued an updated version of their wonderful little synth called the SKULPT, and it's now the SKULPT Synth SE. And I reviewed this when this first came out, and I loved it, and I still have it. It's just like behind my head there somewhere. But my one problem with it was that it was black and orange, and I love orange. Orange is one of my favourite colours. But I thought in a live environment, or in a studio, if you kind of dip the lights in the studio to kind of get a mood going on, you're struggling to see what the nomenclature is, and also because everything was on a 45-degree angle, all the words were kind of like this, so you kind of felt like this all the time, and you're getting a crick in your neck. So what they've done, and I'm not saying this is down to me, but I would like to take some credit. Is that they've straightened everything out pretty much, apart from the 1 or 2 places where it's kind of impossible to do. All the text now is orange and white on a kind of grey background, and it's all horizontal. And they've gone back to because the original sculpts, I believe, were white, and then they went to this black model, and now they've gone back to the white again. So anyway, basically the SKULPT Synth SE has just had a cosmetic update. It's had a firmware update, and most significantly, it's had a massive price drop. So now you can have a 4-note polyphonic MPE capable synth for under £200 or $200, which is is amazing price, and it really is a wonderful sounding synth.
What's the sound generation?
It's all digital. It's 32 digital oscillators.
Is it analog modelling or FM or?
No, it's I guess it's analog modelling. I suppose is probably the best way. Because I always think the Craft is wavetable, isn't it? The smaller one is wavetable, but and of course it comes with all the functionality that you get with the Modal app, so you can edit it on screen, and they've made things a little bit clearer with the app. That's got an upgrade as well. Everything's backwards compatible with the older or the original SKULPT synth, so the firmware can be put back into. So I've got my firmware is now the same as this one here, and everything. Yeah, it's essentially inside. It's the same synth, but they've just prettied it up, and they've dropped the price, which I think is probably the big thing, because to get a 4-note polyphonic MPE capable synth for under £200 or dollars or whatever it might be, that's got to be good. Does anybody else?
What's the size of this? Is it smaller than the Uno synth?
It's about the same, but it's a bit deeper. Let me go and see if I can grab mine.
Oh,
It's off.
I'm off. There we go.
So, that's another one like the Pigments, where like when it first came out, I was not interested at all, but now with this new, I am interested.
Yeah, so that's my one.
Okay.
And it's, as you see, it's black and orange, which in daylight is lovely.
Looks great.
And it is, and it's got these nice little encoders on there, and the touch sensitive strips there, which also doubles up as a keyboard and a function selector and voice selector, and of course you can have batteries in the back. I think
Almost looks like you've got one of those desk saver things, whatever they're called, desk savers over the top of the keys. It's really shiny.
Yeah, it's very smooth.
The white and grey one really looks like it should sit next to an
absolutely. It's kind of opposite, isn't it?
Oh yeah. Well, that'll be nice. Yeah.
Yeah. But the good thing about this is the connectivity at the back. You've got full-size 5-pin MIDI.
Oh wow.
As well as sync, 3.5mm sync in and out, plus line out and headphones, USB powered, USB MIDI, and it's a 4-voice MPE synth for under $200, which I think is amazing.
That is really good value, and looking at the iPad editor there as well, that looks like really handy as well.
So there's a close-up of.
Oh.
So it's a really nice little synth, and then you've got. Let's get the app, because the app is really nicely laid out. So yeah, you can just. There's iOS, Android, Mac, and Windows. I don't think there's a Linux version.
Is the
of
cable
app.
really that short?
No.
That's something I've been wondering.
Yeah. So
It's practically a dongle, isn't it?
yeah. But if you don't like, these kind of little things, or maybe you've got your SKULPT synth over in the corner like I do, you just got it hooked up over USB. You just bring up the editor, which is also a VST stroke audio units plugin as well, so you can edit it from within Logic as an instrument and automate everything as well.
Brilliant.
And a new bank of sounds.
And it sounds good.
Sounds amazing. There must be. There's not. I don't think. Is there a video in here, or is it?
I kind of wish that some of these companies would maybe give up the term virtual analog for a lot of the synths. And I'm not saying this one because I don't have any experience with it, but why can't we say digital subtractive? Is that just too uncool to say? Because a lot of them.
That sounds cool. That.
You might trigger Mark Doty.
Some of them don't sound so analog, but they're basically a digital subtractive synthesizer. So why don't we call it that?
Yes, it's true.
Yeah.
Not sure. You hearing that? You getting that audio again?
Yeah.
Very crunchy sound.
Owl City, we're gonna kick in then.
Yeah, I mean, so it's a really nice sounding synth.
The title of that one, what was it? Bed Mouse.
Bed Mouse, yeah. It's the, all the graphics are kind of doing me.
Yeah, it sounds good actually.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's a really nice sounding synth. And you take that and you get a little controller, and it's it's just nice little full voice for let's say under 200, which has got to be good. So yeah, Modal Electronics, modalelectronics.com/SKULPT-SE is where you can get all the information on that one. It's available to buy now, and of course if you are a SKULPT owner, then just go and update the Modal app to 261, I think is the version number, and then you can install the latest firmware. And then you can also go to the download section of the website, where you will find not only the manuals but a whole bunch of sounds. You get the SE factory bank, the original factory bank. There's a Stranger Things inspired patch bank in there. James Dyson, our friend on the group, he's done a bank there for SKULPT. There's an if you're into MPE and you have an MPE available controller, then there's a specific MPE bank in there as well. So lots of stuff, and all of those downloads are free of charge.
Okay, so now I'm seeing that. I'm thinking that if they do the pro version, it's got to be black and orange, because I really like the look of that black and orange version.
It is. It is nice, and it also comes. I haven't got it handy, but it comes with a cover that goes over the top to stop it getting dusty. Which, when you take it off, you can place this on, so you can actually have it sitting flat rather than tilted on the foot. And it also the lid also has a scoop so that it doesn't obstruct the MIDI ports. It's just all very, very cleverly thought out. Wow. But yeah, lovely little thing, and rather affordable. So SKULPT SE available now.
Seems great.
Let's mention this because I threw this up the other day and I thought, actually, no, we need to give people a bit more time. So you remember last week we had Dominic Hawken on, Mr. Wiggly, and we talked about his Incinerator plugin, which is absolutely brilliant, and you can buy it now for $19.99 from mrwiggly.co.uk. However, if you don't want to buy it, and maybe you want to win it in a competition, well, Dom has been incredibly generous, and he's given us 3 licenses to give away. And give away we shall, but we were going to do the draw tonight, but then I realised that it's only like 2 or 3 days since we put it up, so I want to give everybody the chance to do this properly. I've gone and got the wrong page here, so I might as well just do this. There's Sea Scouts on there for something, I don't know. Here we go. So if you go to the Pro Synth Network page, the Facebook page, you'll see that in the announcements we've got this poll. Basically, we just want you to answer this question. There are 3 choices, and one of them is correct. the other two aren't. So all you need to do is select the one you think is correct, and then in the comments of that thread, complete the following sentence: Incinerator would light up my mixes because, and then in no more than 50 words, put your comment down here. I can see Matt's already chanced his arm and he's thrown his hat in the ring there, as well as Robert and a few others as well. So if you want to win a copy of Mr. Wiggly's Incinerator plugin, just go to the Facebook page. If you're not a member of the Facebook group, then just damn well join up. We ask you 3 simple questions just to make sure that you're human and that you want to be there, and then we'll get you into the group. And then all you need to do is just answer that question and put your what's it called, the tiebreaker response in the comments section. And then what we'll do is next week we will draw the winner out of a hat or some kind of random number generator type thing, whatever. It'll all be done fair and square. And that will be with our very special guest Ty Unwin. So maybe we'll get him to pick the winning tiebreakers for us. But there you go.
Arms if it's coming out of an hat.
Well, quite.
Yeah.
Quite. So yeah, that's the competition. Go to our Facebook page, and if you're not sure where that is, all you do is just go to Facebook and search Pro Synth Network and find us there. And also is worth mentioning, we are well over 1,000 members now on the Facebook group, and we're over 500 subscribers on this channel. And can I just ask everyone in the chat room, if you don't subscribe to this channel already, could you please?
Yeah,
just helps get our numbers up, and it just helps us do a few things. So if you wouldn't mind, just hit the subscribe button. Then if you hit the bell, then you get those convenient notifications to tell you when we're on, which is usually the same time, same place every week. Right.
So Synthient commented on the poll and about what you said, and he made the comment, tiebreakers, TY.
Yeah.
I'd like to say I did that deliberately, but yeah, I didn't. Let's talk about some hardware. We haven't had much hardware. So this is a new object, a new synthesizer, a monophonic synthesizer from soundobjects.com. And this is the Sound Objects Object number 5, which has to be one of the most unusually named synthesizers.
This is like one of those things for people that don't like the names of anything being on there.
Object number 5.
I like that.
And the thing is, there have been objects number 3 and 4 as well. Although I have no idea what happened to 1 and 2. There's a low key in there as well. But this is a monophonic analog synthesizer that kind of sounds a little bit like
Всем привет! Мы рады сообщить вам, что в звуковом объекте номер 5 произошли очередные изменения.
Okay.
Sounds good.
So it's a 2 VCO.
You're getting the facts.
Yeah, 2 VCO, white noise filter, mixer, sample and hold, LFO, a whole bunch of stuff in there. It comes in a little aluminium box, or aluminum if you are from America. The body is ABS plastic. First batch apparently is already sold out, so they're taking pre-orders for the next, and it costs €299 and sending costs, which I think is a wonderfully wonderful translation of postage and packing. It comes with €299 and sending costs. That's my worst Russian accent there. But this isn't me, but is it you? Anyone in the room?
It looks so cool.
It's very aggressive sounding from that little snippet we had then.
Yeah.
Like my nose nearly started bleeding when it
Here's a Pac-Man cover, look.
Yep.
Hey, it's good if you want to do video game soundtracks.
Yeah.
But does this float anyone's boat? Because it doesn't do me.
What kind of what connectivity have we got on it and that? Is it
So you got power supply.
it's got MIDI in.
MIDI input. There you
Is
go.
that it? Yeah. Well,
That's
do.
it. Yeah.
Oh, that's right,
That's
because the guy in the video was like sweeping the filter with the mod wheel and stuff.
Yeah.
and
It'd be
it
nice
does
to
get more interesting. Yeah.
It'd be nice to integrate it into a modular setup if that was possible.
Funny you should say that. There's a Euro Rack edition.
Oh.
Or is
That
this
would
the
make
Euro
more
Rack
sense,
edition?
wouldn't it?
I think actually it looks like you can probably
take
unscrew it
out that. Yeah.
and then throw it into your Euro Rack.
Yeah.
That's
That
clever.
makes
sense. Yeah.
That's clever.
I think one of the probably the selling points on it is that they were talking about that it has a feature set that would be similar to Moog Mother, but like half the price. So
Okay.
it's ridiculously inexpensive. Kind of really like in competition with Behringer as far as monosynths go.
Yeah, the price is right.
Yeah, and for $299, it's a pretty good price. And I love the fact that they are unapologetically Russian, and they are sticking to Russian language on the front plate,
Yeah.
which I like. I like that. It's like we don't care. It kind of gives you that, because there are people, aren't there, that like Heimbach does it, doesn't he? He collects all these really old pieces of electronic equipment, and they will come with all sorts of things, and you have no idea what they mean. But it just begs you to go in and dive in and find out what it can actually do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I like that.
You see it says generators instead of oscillators, so some of the terms are a little bit different, but mixer is the same, and
Yeah.
like figuring out some of the terminology in Russian.
So you can make music and learn a new language at the same time.
The LEDs are like nuclear power station LEDs, aren't they?
They probably actually, it is actually radiation. Yeah, it's not an LED. It's just a radioactive lump of something that glows in the dark. No, but that's really cool. I quite like that. But it's not my thing. But I do like, this kind of, that little thing. Yeah. Anyway.
I'd have to aim more of it. I think that it's got very, very aggressive sound from what I heard, and if you can incorporate that into your style, then it seems like a great value for money. I don't remember the Moog Mother thing being that aggressive sounding. That's like really.
And it was English on the front panel as well.
Yeah, interesting to have come out with another model that was a little bit smoother and warmer.
Well, I think,
Yeah.
and also the aggressive sound. It's like the first thing people are going to say is, "Oh, Polyvox," right? It's like, it's got Russian on it and it sounds aggressive. It's a Polyvox, but I mean, there's more than there's a lot of other very aggressive Russian synths than that.
I'm just looking. I was just trying to see. So in this video here, let me bring this up in a separate window, because I noticed something here, because it's shush now, right. Let's bring this up on the screen, because it said in the text that there was this Eurorack edition, and I just assumed that it was just
No,
this
because
one thing.
it looks a little bit too deep to be Eurorack. What about in that Pac-Man video?
Yeah,
is
so
that
this
it on the right?
Yeah, so that looks like, because it's got the smaller knobs and it's got a smaller fascia on there.
Right.
So I wonder if that is the Eurorack edition.
Yeah, because that looks more about the right size compared to the
hang on.
quarter-inch jacks on the back.
But it's got all these little switches on the front panel here.
Oh,
So maybe that's the
Maybe that's
Eurorack
this.
edition.
Where's the patch points? Does
Good
it have
question.
patch points?
No, I don't know. There's
that's
just
the point.
It hasn't got any patch points.
If we were going to take it out of that case and shove it into a Eurorack case, you wouldn't be able to patch anything into it, because
That's what I'm
the
thinking.
sockets aren't on the front.
Yeah.
well,
that's
this might be a bit of a mistake of them not to put all the angles of it on the website.
Yeah, because the website's kind of limited in its use of photographs, which is odd. But yeah, because this one with the larger chrome-faced knobs on doesn't have anything on that front panel, whereas that one in the video is smaller, has the smaller knobs, and has a lot of these flip switches.
It does give the dimensions, but I'm useless for this. It's in metric.
So 225, so that's 22.5 centimeters, which I guess this is probably the useless on camera. So 22.5 centimeters
That's
is going to
tiny.
be
It's
like
only
this.
that big.
Well, actually, you think about it, 22.5 is probably about as wide as that,
Yeah.
roughly.
Yeah.
And then 17 centimeters, so probably a little bit further down underneath. So I don't know, is that Eurorack size? What is? I'm gonna have to get my.
Don't know.
side rule
It's
out
not
here.
like an HP width.
It doesn't.
somewhere?
No, it doesn't give any HPs
Oh, that's really
on there.
weird.
So 22.5 centimeters is... why did they do that? That's really bad. So it's got to be about 9 inches.
22.5 centimeters is just shy of 9-inch.
Yeah. God, look at that. I'm good.
Yeah.
I got an old kind of school ruler here, one of these flexi things that used to smack people around the head with. But it's the centimeters go this way and the inches go this way, so you can't do a conversion.
Yeah, so Wagyu says 3U is 133 millimeters, and so it's 170, which is too large, as I said. So probably, if anything, it would have been that other unit, but until they provide pictures, I guess we don't know.
Yeah, that's just really odd. But, it's a nice, cheap, affordable, I say cheap, affordable, that's the word I want to look, Russian monophonic synthesizer for €299 and sending costs. Mother
I'm
Russia.
gonna start saying that, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so there you go. That's Sound Object number 5. You want to do it like in Yoko Ono? Number 9. There we go. Right, so what do we do next? This is the big news of the week in terms of computing and music computing. Has got to be the introduction of the new M1 iMac. Let's talk about this just for a little bit, because I think we're all Mac users.
Yeah.
Yep.
Everyone here is a Mac user. So what are your thoughts on this funky new little 24-inch iMac with the M1? I'm kind of liking the look of it. It's 11.5 mil thick. That just looks gorgeous. But it comes in these funky colours as well, which I'm not too bothered about, really.
You can get a silver one.
You can, yes.
Yeah.
You can get one of each.
yeah, that'd be nice. But I mean, the profile is rather stunning when you think, what's going on inside of there is pretty damn amazing how they've squeezed it into such a thing.
It's thinner than most monitors, isn't it?
It's crazy,
like,
and it's a 4.5K,
right? Like everything is on a chip. Like, it's
one chip. Yeah.
bonkers, man.
That's it. I've had iPhones that were thicker than that. Surely, no, maybe not. But it's got the M1 chip, and it comes with 8 gig on board, and I think there is a 16 gig variant. But like you said, Matt, it's everything is on this one kind of chip, which is amazing. 4.5K Retina display, which is very nice. They still got the chin. A lot of people were speculating that they would get rid of the chin. Which would have been nice.
That's where the computer is, though.
But to be honest, they should have just made the back, or at least the middle of the back, bigger, and then take away the chin, because you already have, because of the way the stand is shaped, you're already taking that much space up on your desk. So why not add it to the back of the computer and make the visual appearance of it look good?
Yeah, so the one I have here is that one which really thin at the edges, but it bulges in the middle at the back, and that's where all the good stuff is. But it apparently comes with a rather nice audio system built in with speakers. Obviously not studio grade, but probably quite nice. 1080p front camera, but
say like on my MacBook, I've got the one of the last Intel. It was the first 16-inch one. And laptop speakers are crap no matter what. Yeah. But these speakers sounded so much better than anything else I've heard on a laptop that it was pretty remarkable. I barely use speakers on a laptop because usually I have it connected to my studio monitors or headphones. But they're doing good. Although as big a fan I am of Apple computers, like what the heck with their cameras. It's absolutely ridiculous that this is finally 1080 and then it's already outdated.
Yes.
Why aren't we doing something a little bit better?
They'll give you a 4.5K Retina screen, but a 1080p camera.
Yeah. It just that and the hard drive sizes just kind of astound me. Like, why?
Yeah.
Well, I think with the hard drive, I can't understand why. I think the biggest one that you can get like off the shelf is like 500 odd gig, which is ridiculous. But with a laptop, that's a real problem, because I got my MacBook and I maxed it out as much as I could afford. But I thought, the hard drive, I'll just get I think I got like a terabyte hard drive on it.
Mm-hmm.
But I've ended up buying an external. So everywhere I go with me laptop, I've got this hard drive dangling off it everywhere I go. And there's no way of upgrading it at all. You can't. It's soldered onto the board. You can't do anything about it. And these will be the same, but because they're a desktop machine, the hard drive thing isn't such an issue.
Yeah.
But I think I think it was Mac who said in the chat room that the base model only comes with two Thunderbolt ports.
They're Thunderbolt stroke USB 4.
Right.
And then the slightly more expensive version has those plus two USB 3.1s.
Yeah, watching the keynote, it did very much seem as though this is a domestic machine. It seems as though it's in your kid's bedroom, it's for watching TV on, it's for surfing the net, and it's for doing a bit of word processing on. We know that the M1 chip is really powerful, so we know it's capable of doing that, but I don't think that's who Apple's aiming at. I think what we're going to get is we're going to get a much bigger iMac later on.
And hopefully a intermediate tower. So I mean, with the Mac Mini, which is really awesome in this update, but you got that at whatever $1,000, and then you have a $6,000 Mac Pro. Like, how about something for working people that is somewhere in the middle? That's more powerful, bigger hard drives, modular. You can still swap stuff out like the Mac Pro, but geez, it's not a $6,000 Mac Pro.
Yeah. Well, there isn't a Mac, is there? There isn't. There isn't a Mac. There's an iMac.
There's an iMac and
there's
a
MacBook. Pro. There's a Mac Pro.
Yeah.
But there isn't a Mac.
Well, there hasn't really ever been a Mac because they've always
it was
apart from the first one.
Yeah.
The first one was the Macintosh, but then it was the Macintosh 2, and then it's. But I mean, looking at the specs, you've got these two. There are basically two models that you can pick from. They both have the 24-inch screen with the M1 chip, but like you said, the more expensive one has a couple more ports on the back. It has the 8-core GPU as opposed to the 7-core GPU. You can expand the hard drive up to 2 terabytes, where you can only do it up to 1 on the other one. Obviously, RAM is configurable either as 8 gig or 16 gig, and that's it. So you can't go any higher than that. We don't really care about the camera. Connectivity is pretty mean, and I don't believe there is no SD card port, which I find useful to have. The one on the back of mine. But it's a lovely looking thing, but it's not a studio machine by any stretch of the imagination. Certainly not a serious studio machine.
I think in a few years, a Mac computer is just going to look like a sheet of paper.
This is true. This is true.
It's like let's eliminate all design elements whatsoever. You just look at it and it turns on.
Oh, that's a nice mouse mat you've got there. That's not a mouse mat. That's a computer.
It's funny you should say that. Well, you say that, but the other announcement that they made this week was the new iPad Pro.
Now that looks cool.
With the M1 chip.
Yeah.
So now we're getting an iPad sharing the same chip with the iMac and the MacBook. And how long is it going to be before we see a truly converged offering? Because I mean, here is the side profile of the iPad Pro with the fancy case that also is a keyboard, and you think doesn't look that much different to the iMac that we were just looking at. Does it really?
Well,
And
it's not, is it?
No.
That's the thing now.
And it's got the M1 chip. So what are we going to be able to run on this that we can also run on our Macs and vice versa? Liquid Retina display. 5G in there, which is fine. XDR, OMG. But yeah, I mean, we are, I think, edging ever closer to this unified Apple platform where an iPad and a MacBook and a Mac, or an iMac, shall we say, the only difference is that one is completely battery powered, one can be battery and mains, and the other one is mains. And you just pick the one that suits your environment, and they'll all run the same kind of things.
It's amazing how they've got that XDR screen technology into that.
Oh yeah,
because that XDR display is like thousands of pounds, isn't it? And yet you've apparently got something that looks pretty much identical to it, albeit like a cheaper way of making it.
Yeah, but that process is exactly the same as the iMac, 8 cores, 8-core CPU, 8-core GPU, 16-core neural engine.
But the thing, what I've heard people saying is that the life of these iOS devices has been quite short. You know, you buy one and because I think they were like trying to get into the upgrade cycle, so the life of them has been like 2 or 3 years, really.
Yeah,
and now that they put this chip in, because the life of a Mac is what 10 years you can get out of a Mac.
Yeah,
Mine's
but
10
you
years
know,
old.
with that cycle, my wife had an iPad 2, which was I think it was a 2 that was the first one that we got for her. And man, that thing she just stopped using it like 6 months ago.
Yeah.
So that's a damn long life cycle, and I know Robbie's got a computer that's what 2011.
So this is a late 2013 iMac 27-inch.
Yeah, so I mean, you can get a lot of life of these out of these devices if you're, you know.
Well, my Mac Pro's 2009.
Yeah.
Okay. This is older than mine.
And that is a 2012 MacBook Pro 13. And that performs as good as my iMac here, if not better, because it's got the SSD drive, which I'm having one put in here in the next couple of weeks.
Are you doing it yourself?
No.
I
I'm getting a
did
Pro.
mine myself. It was.
It's not that hard.
Yeah, it was a
I just
it's
don't
not for the
trust myself.
faint-hearted, though.
I don't trust myself, but no, I'm going to pay somebody to do it because then I got somebody to shout at if it goes wrong. But no, the thing is, I was thinking now is the time because I bought this. It's late 2013, so it's 8 years old, coming up to 9, and I thought, now's the time I think to buy one. And then Apple introduced the M1 chip, and I thought, because didn't Jamie buy one of the last Intel iMacs, and I thought, if I do that, then I'm going to have to try and make that last to get the value for money. And that's the one thing I love about iMacs is they do last a lot longer in terms of not having to do anything to run the stuff that you want to run compared to a PC. I mean, I was upgrading my PC every 2 or 3 years, new memory or new hard drive or new this or new that. With this, it's just doing it, and it's still doing it today. So I thought, well, all right, so I'm going to wait. I'll wait until the M1 is released and then beds down. We get through a couple of iterations and everything's settled and everything works without Rosetta. So the only way I'm going to do that is now to try and extend the life of this one. And the only thing I can do to this, because it's maxed out it's got 32 gig of RAM, the only thing I can do is change the regular hard drive to an SSD, and hopefully that'll give me another couple of years.
That'll help. And I had the kind of same dilemma because I had like what was it, 6 or 7 year old MacBook. It was from 2013, and it's like I knew that these were coming in 2019. I thought, well, I'm gonna get. They came out with the 16-inch ones. I'm like, this will be good. This will last me easy 5 years, and then by that time, so now, they're starting to release the MacBooks with the M1 chips. Now in 3 years or 4 years, if I want to stretch it, they're going to be really damn good by the time I upgrade. And then I have this one for those reasons. Like it still has Intel processors. I can run VMware Fusion on it and have it for kind of a backup laptop. But in a few years, then they'll have all the M stuff really kicking it. And the manufacturers too, because I mean we've seen other people like Tim Grogan was talking about his M1. I think he's got the Mac Mini, and he was having problems with some of the software not working for it because it's not just it's not Apple going through the changes; it's the industry and software going through those changes as well.
Yeah.
So at least it'll be a little bit of time to let the industry catch up while it's still on an Intel one.
That's it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Do you think that we're eventually going to be binned off then by, like, say, the likes of Arturia and Roland Cloud and that? Are they going to move away from Intel-based Macs eventually.
Yeah, they have to.
Yeah, they're not going to support it for how long.
There will
do
be
you
a
think
time.
it'd be normal to carry on.
We did it before, didn't we? When we went from PowerPC
Yeah.
to Intel.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
this is just that again. And eventually everyone will be forced to go down that way, either because the hardware does it, or the OS does it, or the software manufacturers do it. Anyway, so that's new Apple stuff. Always an interesting topic, and an interesting debate. But we're going to have to wrap things up now because our guest is going to have to make a move. He's got other things to be getting on with, so we won't have a chance to say.
Gig.
Yeah, so we got to say goodbye properly. So Matt, listen, thank you ever so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. If you want to hear more of Matt's music, then please go and visit his Bandcamp page, where the last time when I went, you could buy his entire catalogue for about £18. So whatever that's like, $20 or something. If you do the whole, buy it as one thing, and there's just loads of great stuff in there, and of course the Nuclear Power Pants there, and the new one, King in Exile. Is this kind of really smooth kind of jazz funk affair, which is brilliant. I really, really like that. So mootbooxlé.bandcamp.com. Go and throw some money Matt's way. And of course, Matt also has his YouTube channel as well, where you can go and watch all of those videos going back, 15 years, which is amazing. And that's where you'll find the DX7 video, along with a whole bunch of other stuff is there. There it is there. So Moot Booxlé on YouTube. Thank you ever so much for joining us. It's been an absolute honour and a pleasure. And what's the gig that you're going to? Is it a cool gig? Is it just a regular working gig?
Trio. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's the trio. I know what it's talking about.
Yay. Fantastic.
The bass playing.
Yeah. Just so before we go, I just want to tell everyone we've got some great guests coming up. So next week we've got Ty Unwin. So we're really excited about Ty coming in. And the week after that we've got Dave Spears from G4 Software. The week after that we have John Bickle, who is Modal's VP of Sales. So we're going to get kind of an industry side of things there. And then May 21st, we were talking about Synthwave before. We've got one of what I think is one of Synthwave's greatest artists, Michael Oakley, who is absolutely brilliant. He's got a brand new album coming out the week before. We had a preview of it this week. Sounds amazing. It really is good.
Yeah.
May 28th, we've got Suit and Tie Guy coming on.
Nice.
John Drake will be on with us May 28th. Following that, June 4th, we got Dr. Manny Fernandez, the king of FM programming. I'm super excited about getting him on. And then later on in June, we're going to be joined by Roger Lyons, who is the keyboard tech supreme for bands like New Order and Kaiser Chiefs and numerous others as well. And then we're going to be joined at the end of June by the one and the only Mr. Kent Spong is going to be with us.
Yes.
Kent, who is the restorer, repairer supreme. Really, really looking forward to get Kent on because he's got stories galore and a wonderful collection of synths. So lots of stuff. And yet you're going to open your package, but we're going to have to do that off air.
Yeah, it's all right.
It's just your JD800 parts, isn't it?
Yeah, I was just going to say thanks to Simon for sending them to me. Very, very grateful of that. Nice gesture.
Excellent. And we've got some more guests that we can't announce just yet, but we will announce as soon as we've got them booked in. So chase one of those up tomorrow. So anyway, thank you, Matt.
Awesome.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Ben. We will be back same time, same place next week. 7 p.m. UK, 2 p.m., 11 a.m., depending on which side of the States that you're on, with Ty Unwin. So please do join us for that. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you get notifications so you don't miss any of the shows. And, of course, you can watch everything back on catch-up. Thanks to everyone for joining in tonight. Thanks to everyone in the chat room, and we will see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.